Welcome, members and guests. Today is Tuesday, February the 15th. I hereby call the local committee to order. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Representatives Calfee, Carr, Chisholm, Gant, Helton, Hodges, Holsclaw, Leatherwood, Love, Manis, Miller, Moody, Moon, Reedy, Rudd, Shaw, Williams, Vice Chairman Wright, Chairman Crawford.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that Representative Carr is excused. Does anyone have any personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, we have 8 bills today on the calendar. We'll jump into getting started. Starting with House Bill 0105 by Chairman Faison. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Faison, I do see that you have an amendment. Can you give us that amendment number?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment drafting code is 013142, and it does make the bill.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Question has been called on the amendment. All those in favor of amendment 13142 say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is now on the bill. Chairman Faison, I recognize you on House Bill 105 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, this is a bill that is brought to me from many of the leaders of Memphis. They are struggling with the ability to hire law enforcement. They've worked hard. They've offered numerous bonuses, all sorts of things to be able to hire local law enforcement, and they are struggling. They want to be able to go outside of the boundaries that their local city council feels like they should, and that's what this bill would do. Allow them to hire outside of the boundaries that their city council set on them.
Thank you, Chairman Faison. I do have a untimely filed amendment. It is Amendment 13515 by Representative Chisholm. At this time, is there a motion to take up the untimely amendment? Proper motion and second on the untimely amendment. All those in favor of taking up the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. I recognize you on the a bill as amended with Amendment 13142. Is there any questions for the sponsor? All right, we'll start with Representative Hodges. Okay. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, you started your statement by saying that many leaders from Memphis came to you. Do you live in Memphis?
No, sir.
Representative
Where
Faison.
do you live?
I live in the Smoky Mountains.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Why did they not come to the many, many members that represents Memphis for
Chairman
this bill?
Faison.
I can't answer that. I'll not speculate on that.
Representative Miller, follow up.
The amendment makes the bill. So exactly again, what does the bill do?
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
You said the amendment makes the bill.
Yes, sir.
Explain the bill.
Well, Representative Miller, I did explain the bill. This is to allow the fire departments and the police departments to be able to hire outside of the guidelines that have been set by their city council.
Representative Miller.
Does this bill only pertain to one city in this entire state, one county in this entire state?
In the amended,
Chairman Faison.
in the amended form right now, it would potentially have impact with one area.
Next on my list is Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And along that same line, that's just my concern. I I've gotten a lot of calls from folks in Memphis said they don't want outsiders. And I guess what I was trying to, not that I'm making that decision one way or the other, but I guess what confused me is that they wouldn't have one of their representatives to bring this bill if that's what they wanted. And my concern is, why is a legislator on the other side of the state bringing a bill for Memphis? That's all, because I don't have any dog in the fight, so to speak here, but
Representative Shaw, do you have a question?
yes, sir. More than a statement, and I'll be through, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I just, you know, I would want to have an input if it was my district rather than somebody on the outside having it. I think that's the statement I wanted to make. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Any response, Chairman? Next on the list is Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when we come in this chamber, I put on my hat to be Tennessee first, and when I'm in Memphis, I'm Memphis first. And we have a bill here to help our law enforcement and our first responders, but we have a bill here where we have our laws and our fire code being enforced by those that do not have to abide by these same rules when they go home. We have a Memphis bill also being legislated by non-Memphians without the advice or the counsel of people from Memphis outside of the entities that are hiring. For example, if I proposed a bill in Jefferson County that only pertained to Jefferson County, I would be met with the same reservation that I have right now because I don't live in that county. So I probably would be asked to let that local government take care of that local issue. Because essentially what we have here is a state takeover on the hiring practice of a municipality. That's what we have here. Furthermore, if a bill is not good enough for Tennessee, it's not good enough for Memphis. So instead of hiring non-Tennesseans, I propose that we compensate our law enforcement and our firefighters and our EMTs better so that we can attract those people to do this work, so that when Blue Oval or Amazon or anyone else open up, we won't lose our people because they get a few more dollars for a job that they have less stresses with. So instead of looking outside of our backyard to be policed by people who are not of our community, how about we just pay the ones that are in our community? For those that want to do this work, I invite them. I invite anyone to come to Memphis. Memphis is an amazing place. I said in the subcommittee, I love Memphis. I'm from Memphis, and I bleed Memphis. And I believe that Memphis, if we actually take a real look in our backyard, I believe we'll find what we're looking for. We'll find people willing to do this work. We'll find people who are dedicated to Memphis. Because what I'm finding out, when people are able to work in their backyard, they do a better job at it, because you have actually more incentive for doing that work at a higher rate. So joining us in Memphis, it could potentially improve the relationships that we have between community and first responders. So I understand the spirit of the bill. I understand that, there's a need. There's a need for people to fill these positions. But I just think there's a better way of going about it.
Thank you, Representative Chisholm. Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, I would like to turn your attention to House Bill 105 on your marked calendar. And you would notice that the majority of the sponsors on this bill are either West Tennessee or Shelby County sponsors, number one. Number two, I'd also like to direct your attention to a recent FBI report that shows Memphis as one of the single most deadly cities in America, with over 300 homicides last year. When your local law enforcement is coming to the legislature saying, we need help because we're struggling to find, and we're hundreds of officers short, and we desperately want to keep our community safe. We need help because they have not got the problem fixed where we're at. So we're coming to you for help from the state to make sure we get this right. We want to see our homicide numbers go down. That beckons us as legislators to say, we understand what's going on. And when we see these FBI statistics, we understand when you request as a police chief, as a mayor, and you come to us and say, we want your help, that behooves us as legislators to stop and hear what they have to say.
At this time, I'm going to take personal privilege as chairman, and I have a bill to present. They're waiting on me, so I'm going to pass the gavel. We will continue the dialect with questions and answers, but at this time, I recognize Vice Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Presenter, did you have a response? Continued response. Speaking next, Representative Leader Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, in this amended version, just for clarity, would it allow someone who does not live in Tennessee to be a law enforcement or first responder in Memphis?
Mr. Presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, sir, this would give discretion to your local police chief or fire chief to be able to hire who they feel is best for their departments.
Chairman Love.
So just so I'm clear, someone could live in Arkansas and be a law enforcement officer in Memphis.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, I'm not sure how you like to set that up, but I'll look to you for permission to continue.
You have my permission for the two of you to have your questions back and forth for the moment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Love, that is correct. And as you would know that I live in a border county, and a lot of us in East Tennessee live in border counties, and that's common practice where we're from. That if the pool is limited, then we pull from Kentucky or North Carolina or Virginia. That's a common practice. And if this bill is passed, it would also extend it to that area of the state too.
And in your area where it's common practice, who made the decision about that?
So far, the police chief and the fire departments have been making that decision.
And there's no state law that restricts them from that? But there's one to have Memphis have permission to do this?
When your mayor and your police chief and your fire chief are coming and ask, that's what we're doing.
No, I'm really asking for logistics because I want to make sure that, so statewide, anybody can do this? Because your area is already doing it, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, sponsor.
Yes, sir.
Representative Leatherwood.
Well, the sponsor actually made the point I was going to make with the first series of questioning. And I'll go ahead and say names. He doesn't get to respond because he's not even here. But Gillespie is number 2 on this bill, and schedules and so forth. And leadership sometimes determines who's number 1 on these bills. But then, as was alluded to, you've got White, Vaughn, and Leatherwood that have either in the area, some small part, or entire district in the city. we all acknowledge the problem is real. It's very real. And we could like to pretend that, people will fall in love with this area or that area and the problem will go away, but it won't. This is a very real, concrete way to address this problem that needs to be addressed. And yes, West Tennessee's backyard. So there is support for this locally in leadership and with the grassroots, and would appreciate y'all's support.
Chairman Faison, moving to the next set of questions, second time on the bill, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of a statement based on what the chairman had said about Memphis, and we agree. Where there's crime, we want to be in a position to try to reduce it. But who we have not heard from in subcommittee and the full committee is the leadership that has been having conversations with you and not with me. Or for that matter, I don't know of any other members of this committee that's from Memphis, Shelby County, that they've had conversations with. Last week, you had the chief of police in here, the president of firefighters union, but not one of them, and also the leaders of the crime commission, not one of them has come before this committee to show what I would say is a simple look of respect. Matter of fact, they've been totally disrespectful to us, this entire committee, because the experts haven't come before us and to say what you are saying. Is there a reason because of that?
Let me be excuse me, let me be out of order for a moment. We will transition back to the chair of the local committee. Mr. Chair, we are still in questions and answers. Representative Miller has addressed questions for the second time, and Chairman Faison is about to respond.
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Miller, thank you for the question. And first of all, I would like to say, since this bill has been put on notice the first time and all through last week and today, this chair, I've spoken to him. He is completely open to anyone who would like to come in and testify on behalf of the bill or for the bill. Last week, the decision was made with the subcommittee chair for them to be in presence so that this committee knew where the leadership of Memphis was and how they believed. If there had been a question and you had the ability to ask them questions and the chairs, they were on the list, they would have been more than happy to step up. And so I just want you to know, from my standpoint, there's never been any thoughts of them not being able to speak. And I spoke to you in the hallway and said, if there's a city council member or somebody who wants to come and testify, you make sure they know the 24-hour notice, and they will be more than willing and free. This space belongs to the people. This is the people's house. They can come up and share their thoughts why this is a bad idea. So there's not been any effort to silence a voice. And I can't answer you to why those leaders in your community haven't spoke directly to you, but they were willing to today and last week as well.
Follow up, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that, but reception sometimes is a reality. And wouldn't it send a message to you that this bill is probably not necessary based on the fact of what you've just said? They don't see it as that important, or they would be here to speak on it. Don't you think they would be here those that support it and those that do not support it? Don't you think they would be here if it was this important? And especially being introduced from somebody that doesn't even live in the city.
Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on the list, do you want to respond, Chairman? I'm sorry. Next on the list is Chairman Rudd. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to get one thing very clear from what all the discussions I've been listening to. This bill does not tell Memphis it has to do anything. It's permitting them to make their own decision to go outside their city limits if they choose to for the best interest, but it's still up to them to decide. It's not forcing them to hire anyone from anywhere. All right,
Sure.
just giving them the freedom and the best interest of their citizens to go outside if they so need to.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you. Chairman Rudd, that is correct. This gives the ability to the appointed by the city council, chief of police and chief of the fire department, the ability, if they see fit, to go outside of the current guidelines that they've been given.
Chairman
It
Reed.
does not force it. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the question on the bill.
Question has been called on the bill. Is there anybody who objects to the question being called? Okay, I see 3 hands. We'll vote on it. All those in favor of the question being called, say aye. Opposed, no. I cannot tell, so we can't do a roll call vote because we've already taken a vote when we put the amendment on there. So I will rule that just because this is such an important issue, I will allow a couple more questions. So at this time, I recognize Chairman Calfee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor of the bill. We're just replaying what was said in the subcommittee. And correct me if I'm wrong, the police chief was there, her assistant was there, the head of the police union was there, the fire chief was there, the head of their union was there, and they were all in favor of it. Now, of course, I live out in the country. If my sheriff come to me and said, we're 400 deputies short, and we're going to have to go to surrounding counties to get those, I jump right on board because it's obvious that the 2 groups that are mostly affected here, of course, the people really affected are the citizens who want to be safe. They don't get shot walking to the grocery store or whatever. But I can't believe that anybody from Memphis would oppose this because there's a definite need for fire and law enforcement. And I believe we found out in the subcommittee that currently 40% of the police department employees don't live in the city. Of course, they're grandfathered. But anyway, I'll shut up about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir. At this time, I'll recognize Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be very brief. To be perfectly honest, I think it ought to be done. I'm not against the legislation. What I'm against is that there's many legislators are there from Memphis. It's not one first on this. Gillespie is secondly. I'm wondering why we don't have a Memphis legislator in here presenting this bill. The problem I got is Chairman Faison presenting a bill that somebody from Memphis ought to be presenting. And that's my case.
I'm going to finish the list out, and I'm not taking any more. So at this time, I recognize Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Chairman. So are we here today because, to the sponsor, are we here today because the city council voted no on this?
Chairman Faison.
We're here today because this area of Tennessee, crime has risen exponentially, and your police chief is asking for help. And when that police chief went to the city council to put it on a referendum for the people of Memphis to vote, your city council said no, 7-6, and would not allow the people of Memphis to go on a referendum to fix this. And you know why they said no? You can figure it out.
Follow up, Representative Chisholm.
Okay. So, without getting in the weeds, the city council, they voted no.
On a referendum.
On a referendum. Okay. So and of course, we won't be here today, but I had an amendment here to put a sunset provision on this, just so that we can try the shoes on. Then if it doesn't work, take the shoes off. Because my concern here is today is Memphis. Tomorrow, it'll be everybody else's district that has people who are not from their area upholding the laws that are in that area that they do not have to follow when they go home at night. And again, maybe it's a flaw that I have this Tennessee first, Memphis first thing, but I believe I truly believe again, if we look in our backyard, we'll find the people we're looking for.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you. Members, committee, I would like to encourage you before you vote to remember this. And I agree, it could happen in my neighborhood or your neighborhood. But if it does happen in your neighborhood and your city council refuses it to be put on a referendum for the people that you speak for to be able to vote and make their voice known, then it is just and right to come here and allow us to put it to where the people want it.
Any objection to previous question? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 0105 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Next on the list is House Bill 1709 by Chairman Halford. This is local bill. We got a proper motion in second. Let the record reflect that I have received a 2/3 majority resolution from the governing body. So at this time, I recognize Chairman Halford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1709 is brought to me by the Bradford Special School District. As many of you know, I have most all the special school districts in Tennessee. So the only way that they can increase their revenue is to come to this body and ask for permission, as it would be, to raise the property tax rate at a specific amount. And so that's what I'm here about today. Their current rate is $1.82. They want to raise that 16 cents, which would be $1.98 per 100 of value for real property and personal property. So with that said, I would be happy to take questions, sir.
Is there any questions for Chairman Halford? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 1709 moving on, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, members.
At this time, House Bill 1732 by Chairman Hulsey. Do I have a motion? Proper motion in second. Chairman Hulsey, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Constables in this state are an asset. Large communities don't have them. It was changed in the legislature to do away with them a long time ago. But in rural counties, constables feel a real need. And most of them are just like any other law enforcement folks. They keep their nose clean, do a good job. Every now and then you get a wayward one. There is no mechanism to do away with a wayward one or to deal with them other than a recall. Even though in every law enforcement agency in Tennessee, when an officer, if he gets indicted or he gets arrested, he's put on administrative leave right away. Well, this bill tries to fix that. It says if you have a wayward constable who commits crime and gets arrested or is indicted, that the criminal court judge in that county will put him on administrative leave pending the outcome of a trial. Now, he's got a right to an appeal to that. But if he disobeys the judge, there's also teeth in this that he can be charged with disobeying the judge's order. He can also place the constable on administrative leave for unethical conduct. But he also has a right to a hearing, and the constable has a right to representation. And if he doesn't like the decision, he can appeal to the Court of Appeals. So that's pretty much what the bill does.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Hulsey, how many counties actually have these now?
Chairman Hulsey, you're recognized.
I have no idea. There was a constable association in West Tennessee. You have one main constable association, Tennessee Constable Association, and I think a representative behind me is moving for another one called East Tennessee Constable Association, but I really do not know how many counties in the whole state have them. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this bill. I think it's a good one.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, constables, are they run for election or are they appointed?
Chairman Halsey.
Yes, constables are a constitutional office. They're elected, just like a sheriff is,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. And the legislation said even if they're under indictment, they haven't been accused of anything, but if they're under indictment, then they will still be placed on administrative leave.
That is,
Chairman Halsey.
that is correct. They'd be placed on administrative leave. In other words, they couldn't go do their duty and wear a uniform and go around making traffic stops or serving paper like they normally would, just like any other law enforcement agency would do.
Representative Miller, you have a follow-up?
Well, and that's with pay, administrative leave.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 1732, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman of Committee.
House Bill 1864 by Representative Baum. Is he in here? Without objection, we will roll him to the hill. House Bill 1858 by Representative Darby. Roll to the hill. House Bill 1693 by Representative Campbell. Do I have a motion? Proper motion in second. Representative Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. 1693 adds the East Tennessee Constables Association to the list of entities that are eligible to provide in-service education courses and firearms training for constables. They do use a state licensed firearms instructor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you for bringing this bill, sponsor. The real intent is to make available training as easily as possible to these constables. And training is very, very important in the world in which we live. So thank you for bringing this bill.
Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1693 by Representative Campbell. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill moves on to calendar and rules, sir.
Thank you.
House Bill 1704 by Representative Vital. Do I have a motion? Got a proper motion in second. Representative Vital, you are recognized. Is this your first bill?
It is, sir.
Okay. Well, you guys be easy on them. Representative Vital, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm here on behalf of the Tennessee Comptroller's Office. I bring before you House Bill 1704, which addresses local government conflicts of interest. If you have any serious questions, I will have someone from the Comptroller's Office, Hayden Pendergrass, here to back me up, but I will try to walk through this with you. County government.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, sir. Okay. County government typically operates under three financial management statutes, such as the County Purchasing Act of 1957, the County Financial Management System of 1981, and general law. Last year, the General Assembly passed Public Chapter 472, which amended the conflict of interest provisions in the County Financial Management System of 1981 to mirror the general law. The conflict of interest provisions in the County Purchasing Act of 1957 were not amended, and as a result are now inconsistent with the other two statutes, which have caused some confusion. This legislation makes government work better together by making the conflict of interest provision in the county financial management statutes consistent. The bill mirrors the language in the County Financial Management System of 1981 and the general law by adding the definitions for the term controlling interest, direct interest, and indirect interest. Additionally, the bill adds language regarding the indirect conflicts of interest be disclosed. Mr. Chairman, are there any other questions? I know there is.
The House Bill 1704, I'm going to recognize Chairman Holtzclaw for a question.
Thank you, Chairman. And I know that it was brought to you by the Comptroller's Office, but do you feel this will be vital to your reelection?
Representative Vidal, you are recognized.
I'm sure the people of my district will realize it's vital
Thank you, sir.
for all Tennesseans.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To sponsor yield, if statute 157 was not recognized, how can it be in default?
Chairman Vidal.
I'm not quite sure where you are, sir.
Representative Shaw.
Well, it's in your legislation, and you said in your comments that they didn't recognize statute 157. And if you didn't pass this bill, they was going to be in default of a class, some kind of felony, a D felony or something. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what are you trying to do?
Representative Vidal.
What we're trying to do is bring the provisions of County Purchasing Act 1957 that were not amended and are now inconsistent with the other two statutes so that there is no confusion.
Well, you just made it confused. You keep saying that statute 157 is not amended. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative, I just wondered, your presentation on the bill today reminded me of another Chairman Ramsey. Did he offer to give you his plaid coat today?
Representative Vidal, you're recognized.
I withdraw the question. Congratulations on your first
Chairman
bill.
Williams.
Thank you.
Any more questions? The question has been called on the bill. You're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 1704, moving on, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is good for Tennessee, good for Memphis, and good for Chattanooga.
Next on our list is House Bill 1721 by Representative Reedy. He will be rolling this bill for 1 week. At this time, we will go back. I see Chairman Baum has joined us. House Bill 1864 by Representative Baum. You are recognized. Proper motion and second on the bill. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford. This bill clarifies 3 parts of our public finance code. First, it makes it clear that a municipal or local government can obtain information about interest rates from directly itself or using a designee, and that its designee does not have to be a certified financial advisor. The second part of our statutes that it clarifies is it makes it clear that a local government can refinance or refund capital outlay notes using general obligation bonds or a public building authority loan. Of course, if that refunding results in a longer maturity or a larger amount borrowed or obligated, then the refunding would have to be approved by the local government by resolution, and information about that would need to be published. And then the third part of this bill would make it clear that an outstanding obligation, a loan that has a variable interest rate, is not considered to be significantly modified when that rate is adjusted or renegotiated, if that variable rate was contemplated when the obligation was initially issued. In other words, the investors knew on the front end that there was a variable rate and that rate was going to change. And when that rate actually does change, that would not constitute a significant modification.
Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1864. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you all.
House Bill 1858 by Representative Darby. Do I have a motion? Proper motion in second. Representative Darby, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I apologize for being late. We was in another committee there. This is brought to us by the comptroller, and this legislation makes government work better by updating the forest land definition in the Greenbelt statute. And this bill allows for forest land to contain two non-contiguous tracts within the same county totaling at least 15 acres that are separated only by road, body of water, or public or private easement. And this bill ensures that certain non-contiguous properties are still classified as Greenbelt.
Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1858. Moving on, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Before we close today, does any of the members have any announcements or personal orders? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.